Good.
Okay. There's a record button also. Do I need to do anything with that?
No, Prabhuji. Live streaming is good. We'll take it from there.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so we'll start with the Mangalachan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham karoti vacharam pangam langyate girem yatkripatmaham vande Shri Gurudinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam Namaom Vishnupadaya Krishnapasthaya Bhutale Shamati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pashachade Shatarane. So thank you so much for joining. I think today's agenda, Rupraghunath Prabhu, is that we start with the group presentations, correct?
Yes, Prabhuji. We
Okay.
are on the last chapter, group presentation, followed by Q&A, and we finish the module. And we can
Okay.
start with the group 1 whenever group 1 is ready.
Okay.
Sure, Prabhu. I'm sharing my screen.
That we start with the group presentations, correct?
Yes, Prabhuji. We are on the last chapter, group presentation, followed by Q&A, and we finish the module.
Prabhu, please confirm. Can you share my screen, Prabhu?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. And today's presentation on the topic, what are the 5 factors of work and what is the reason Krishna speaks about them? Introduction to the 5 factors. Krishna explains the 5 causes for the accomplishment of any action, establishing continuity between karma and jnana. Earlier, Krishna spoke about renouncing actions from the perspective of karma, focusing on karma phala. Now, Krishna explains the same from the perspective of jnana by analyzing the causes of actions and determining what one should do and what and should not do. The Sankhya philosophy that Krishna explains will establish the principles of action and knowledge, giving the clarity to the 5 factors involved in every action. The 5 factors of work. Krishna cites to the Vedanta Sutras to explain that there are 5 factors involved in any action: the place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the supersoul, Paramatma. Krishna is expanding on his earlier explanation that every action has 5 factors. The anatomy of any action begins with the desire of the jiva, the soul, to initiate it. Jiva thinks about an action, then endeavors or strives to execute it. The body and the senses become involved, and the action is performed in the body. Accountability for actions. The supersoul, Paramatma, is the one that permits and oversees the action, while Jiva is the immediate cause of the activity. Paramatma is the ultimate cause. Krishna breaks this down to establish accountability for action. Krishna explains various factors accountable for action. Sometimes he attributes to the responsibility to the jiva, other times to the modes of material nature, and at others to the supersoul Paramatma. Now, Krishna is saying that these factors are all responsible together, while jiva being the immediate cause and the supersoul Paramatma being the ultimate cause. The interplay of 5 factors. Krishna established that all actions, whether right or wrong, performed by the body, mind, or speech, are caused by these 5 factors. The influence of these 5 factors is universal and applies to all actions, whether they are attached, detached, pious, or impious. Krishna says that right actions, according to the scriptures, or wrong actions, opposed to the scriptures, are all caused by the confluence of these 5 factors. The illusion of soul rulership, which Naveen Prabhu will continue from this slide. Naveen Prabhu, can you continue with this?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. The illusion of soul doership. Krishna explains that one who thinks himself the only doer not considering the five factors is not very intelligent and cannot see things as they are. Krishna points out that those who consider themselves the sole doer and deny the other factors are lacking in intelligence. There are also people who think they are not the doer at all, believing that everything is enacted by the super soul. Krishna calls these people ignorant. Those who do not see the activities as a result of the confluence of five factors are not intelligent. Three motivators of action. Krishna discusses the three factors that motivate action: knowledge, object of knowledge, knower. The senses, work, and the doer are all involved in the motivation behind any action. Why does Krishna speak about these five factors? Humility, understanding our limitations; detachment, acting without selfish desires; divine guidance, recognizing the role of the super soul. Krishna speaks about the five factors to help us understand the complexity behind every action. By recognizing that actions are not solely the result of individual will, but also involve other elements such as the body, the senses, the place of action, and ultimately the super soul, we can cultivate a sense of humility and detachment. Krishna wants us to realize that we are not the sole doers of our actions and that our actions should be performed without selfish desire for results. This knowledge encourages the practice of Nishkama karma, selfless action, and helps us align our actions with divine will, leading to spiritual progress and detachment from the fruits of our work. Conclusion: embracing selfless action. By understanding the five factors, we can cultivate humility and avoid the trap of false ego, perform duties with detachment and wisdom, and recognize the role of Super Soul in all actions and surrender to his guidance. Krishna's teaching about these factors is not just a philosophical point, it is a call for practical application in our lives. By aligning our actions with this understanding, we move towards self-realization and ultimately towards Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very comprehensive and compact. Well done.
Do we have group 2?
Hare Krishna to everyone and Gurudev. We have here our topic is impact of the mode on various aspects of one's action. Okay, in the chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna elaborate on how the three modes of material nature, that is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, influence various aspects of human behavior and action. So these modes affect Jnana, Karma, Karta, Buddhi, Dhirti, and Sukha. So the knowledge, sattvic knowledge, see unity in diversity, recognizing the one undivided spiritual reality in all beings. Rajasic knowledge.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure if this is just on my screen, but your slides are very small. I can barely read what. I mean, I know you're reading out, that helps.
So it's not in presentation mode, Prabhu. Maybe you should put it in presentation mode
Okay.
and share the full screen. I think you've shared. Yeah, I think if you maximize the window and do a presentation mode, it will be fine.
Okay. Is it fine now?
It's better. Thank you. Okay, yes, better.
So Rajasic knowledge focus on diversity and multiplicity, with perceiving different entities as separate and distinct. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction and long-term unrest. The tamasic knowledge is limited and false, clings to tribal material perspective, ignoring the higher truth. This mode causes a stagnation and ignorance, pulling the individual into delusion and harmful behavior. And the karma, so with the sattvic action, one at the duty without attachment to result, performed with the discipline. So the rajasic action is performed with attachment driven by selfish desire and carvings for rewards. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction but long-term unrest. And then the tamasic action are taken out of delusion without regard for consequences or ethics. This mode causes stagnation, ignorance, pulling the individual into delusion and harmful behavior. And the other one is karta, the doer. So if we do our duties as a sattvic doers, free from ego, balanced, enthusiastic, and steady, the rajasic doer, they are greedy, attached to outcome, envious, and restless. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction and long-term unrest. For the transpeak doer, indolent, careless, procrastinating, and deceitful, this mode causes stagnation, ignorance, pulling themselves in delusion and harmful behavior. And then the other one is a buddhi. So if when we do our karma using a sattvic understanding, it distinguishes between right and wrong and lead to clarity. And rajasic understanding misinterpret right as wrong and vice versa. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction but long-term unrest. Tamasic understanding mistake unrighteousness for righteousness, incapable of discerning truth. This mode causes stagnation and ignorance, pulling the individual into delusion and harmful behaviors. This is again the Kali effect, like that we are uh, having now. And the other one is tirti, determination. The sattvic determination is steadfast and unwavering, focused on self discipline. Rajasic determination driven by personal ambition, inconsistent effort. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction but long-term unrest. Tamasic determination. This stubborn persistence in ignorance, fear, or laziness, and against the same thing causes a stagnation and ignorance, pulling the individual into delusion of harmful behavior. And the last one is happiness, sukha. So like a sattvic happiness begins like poison, but at the end, nectar rising from self-disciplines. At first, it will be very hard, but the fruit of the action uh, would be very much sweet. So the rajasic happiness starts with, but it's bitter, derived from sensual pleasure. It drives ambition and desire, often resulting in temporary satisfaction but a long-term unrest. With everything else, that for the tamasic happiness, delusional, arising from sleep, laziness, and negligence. This mode again causes stagnation and ignorance, pulling the individual into the delusion and harmful behavior. To sum up, Bhagavad Gita teaches that understanding the mode of material nature, sattva, rajas, and tamas is essential for self-realization and spiritual growth. Now, the sattva promotes clarity, harmony, and spiritual advancement, leading towards the liberation moksha. Rajas bind individual to the cycle of desire and attachment, fostering restlessness and dissatisfaction. And due to this, the person will born again and again and again into the material world. Tamas lead to the ignorance, delusion, and inertia, causing degradation and suffering, and then they might go into the lower level. By consciously cultivating sattva through rightness, action, pure knowledge, and disciplined living, one can transcend the binding nature of all three modes and achieve ultimate freedom and unity with the Supreme. So this is all about it. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. This is group 3. Let me- And the topic for our group is Yoga Ladder in chapter 18. Yoga Ladder has already been discussed in previous chapters, but Krishna summarizes as to how the Yoga Ladder is part of the evolution of consciousness. So this is a small depiction of how the Yoga Ladder looks like. Starts with Karma Kanda, and then Sakama Karma, then Nishkam Karma, then Jnana, and then Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. And So Krishna talks about these through the verses of 41 to 56. Krishna explains based on the modes of material nature, one conducts himself or herself, and at the lowest level of consciousness. So modes of goodness, what's the nature looks like? Undivided spiritual nature is seen. Action which is regulated, performed without attachment and without desire for fruits, and also no association with modes of material nature. Where when it comes to mode of passion, he differentiate by the types of living entities. Action is performed to gratify desires to enjoy fruits, and always envious. And in mode of ignorance, does not have knowledge of truth. Action performed in illusion, and the qualities are laziness, procrastinating, cheating, and being obstinate. So, based on the modes, Krishna characterizes the Varnashrama Dharma and explains the Sakam Karma, which is the first step on the ladder, and performing the duties according to one's own propensities, but there is a desire to enjoy them. So, the focus is still on the material aspects. So, based on the characteristics exhibited towards the modes of material nature, men can be classified into four varnas. So, Krishna talks about what are the four varnas and how these modes are playing around with these four varnas. Brahmanas, so he explains the qualities like self control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, and wisdom, and religiousness. And Kshatriya, heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership. When it comes to Vaishyas, farming, cow protection, and business. And when it comes to Shudra, laborers and service to all the other varnas. So every man can become, Krishna says, every man can become perfect based on, uh, based no matter which qualities they exhibit. In the sense, being a Brahmana or being a Kshatriya or being a Vaishya or being a Sudra, one can attain to the perfection when he performs the prescribed duty as per the scriptures. So one should perform his prescribed duties for the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead to achieve the perfection. So that's where he says, no matter which varna he belongs to, by performing the duties, he can attain the supreme perfection. Going to the next one. Oh, just a moment. I think there's something missing. Yeah. So the next step of the yoga ladder, Krishna talks about Nishkam Karma, where Nishkam Karma, one performs the duties without the attachment to the duties or the fruits of the duties themselves. So there is some sense of control of the mind and senses. So focus is still on the material aspects, but some focus on the mind control is there at this stage. So a person transcends the modes of nature and continues to march towards the next stage of Brahman realization. So the next step in the ladder comes where one is in Brahman realization. By continuous performance of Nishkam Karma, one reaches to the Brahman realization, which is more like the Jnana ladder, Jnana step of the ladder. And Brahman realization are of two ways. One is Atma Jnana and the other one is Paramatma Jnana. Atma Jnana is one is looking at all the individuals at the same platform, at the same level, which is Pandita Samadarshina, so to say. And Paramatma Jnana is basically one is able to realize Paramatma in every living being. So that's when he is just not seeing everyone at the same level, but he's also very friendly with everyone. And the next step is the performance of devotional service, bhakti. So uh, as one progresses, into bhakti, that's where the material consciousness turns into more like non-material conscious, or he transcends over material contaminations. And that's where it's Krishna says bhakti is always there. It's been there since. Bhakti doesn't go away anywhere. It is there in every step. It's just that it is not manifested. So bhakti is always there, but when a person is cleansed of material contamination, bhakti manifests. So karma and jnana is conducive for spiritual progression, but bhakti can provide both spiritual attachment and material detachment. So uh, that's how one progresses to bhakti, which is the performing of the devotional service with love. Hare Krishna.
Very nice, Prabhu. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
I do not see. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mataji, and see your screen also. You can start.
Sure. Hare Krishna. Our topic for today is Bhakti as explained by Krishna. This will be covered under verses chapter 18, 55 to 66 verses. Verse 18.55. What is Bhakti? It is loving devotion service to Lord. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand the Lord. One can enter into the kingdom of God when one's full consciousness of me. Bhakti is the only way to understand him. Verse 15.56. In this verse, it says, Mad Vyaparashya. Under my protection, Krishna says, those who are engaged in my service, I personally protect them from all the reactions. He takes the responsibility, protect them completely, and at the end, he sees that his devotees reaches the eternal abode, which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and unchangeable. Ananya Cheta Satatam. Chapter 8, verse 14, Krishna says, one who always remember me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. O son of Partha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service, he will achieve me. The example that comes to our mind is Prahlad Maharaj. In spite of all the difficulties he faced, he was able to get bhakti and take darshan of Sri Nasamada Bhagavan. Krishna in this verse also says, by my grace, you can come to my abode by my grace. The whole Krishna consciousness is a system of recommendation. Lord is pleased when we follow the instructions from spiritual masters. When he is pleased with us, he recommends to his spiritual master. Through this disciplinic succession, Lord will accept by his grace. 18.57. Through this verse, Krishna is explaining that a person may be involved in different kinds of activities, devotional services like Sharanam, Kirtanam, Smaran, and many more. Do all activities for the pleasure of me, offer everything onto me, make me the goal of life, then you will come under my protection, fully fixed in Krishna consciousness. 18.58. In this verse, Krishna is emphasizing on words, my grace. Krishna giving us warning that if we don't work in Krishna consciousness, we continue to relate to this body and not as a spirit soul, not understanding that we are part and parcel of Krishna. We are acting through false ego and we will be lost in endless cycle of birth and death. Whereas one who is in Krishna consciousness, one will pass all the obstacles by Lord's grace. Shri Padmavanjari Mataji will be covering these verses.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. The Lord reveals that He is seated in everyone's heart, and the living entity is dependent on the Lord and under the Lord's control. The duty of the living entity is to surrender. The Lord instructs that if one is fully surrendered, they will attain transcendental peace and Krishna Loka. Verse 18.66 Abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. The Lord just impart the process of bhakti to Arjuna so that the living entity can be liberated. The Lord describes the 9 processes of bhakti, then the stage of material liberation, then pure service, devotion, service to the Lord. Surrender to Krishna is the most confidential knowledge, and the process of bhakti yoga leads to Krishna. And in conclusion, what we learn is that this actual liberation is that one understand his own spiritual identity, that he is part and parcel of the Lord and is meant to serve the Supreme. And even in Nectar of Instruction, it's stated that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the most confidential knowledge is to serve the Lord. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
How do I stop sharing? I don't know. I lost this. How do I stop sharing? Okay.
There's like a stop share kind of a button that appears on the screen.
Can group 5 take over? I cannot see anything here. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. We are group 5. I hope my voice is audible and my slides are visible. Uh, can someone confirm?
Yeah, both are working.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Our topic for today is what is the essence of Gita? This is a conversation between 2 persons, person 1 and person 2. I'll play the part of person 1, and Harivansh Prabhu would play the part of person 2. Please take Bhagavad Gita. Those who study it worship Lord Krishna and can easily get their desires fulfilled thereby.
Thanks, but can you tell me what is the essence of Bhagavad Gita?
Devotional service to Lord Krishna in full consciousness is the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is the essence of whole Gita.
Thank you so much. I was just checking whether do you read what you are requesting others to read? Please give me a copy. If you don't mind, can you address few queries?
Yes, please. It is always pleasurable to discuss Bhagavad Gita in whatever capacity we can.
I was finding it hard to reconcile that after endorsing so many religious practices based on karma, jnana, or ashtanga, Lord Krishna is telling us to abandon all kinds of religion in this Paribhasha Sutra. I am afraid that one can accrue 4 kinds of sins by this abandonment.
That abandonment of all kinds of religious practices is recommended only when one completely surrenders to Lord Krishna.
Taking complete shelter of Lord Krishna is all right, but what about the sinful reactions that accrue because of abandonment of these dharmas?
Can you name these? I want to see if I can address these based on my humble capacity.
There are 4 kinds of sinful reaction which can contaminate us because of this abandonment. First one will be due to disobedience to scriptures, and Lord Krishna is quite unequivocal about it.
Since Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literatures, any apparent contradiction has to be resolved on the basis of Bhagavad Gita, and that is the specific standard. Hence, wherever any Vedic literature apparently contradicts Bhagavad Gita itself will prevail, and since Bhagavad Gita 18.66 is the Paribhasha Sutra, even the contradictions within Bhagavad Gita will be resolved based on the same shloka, which is 18.66. Hence, if one is involved in pure devotional service, one need not worry.
Moreover, Lord Krishna is expecting that we must surrender to him exclusively. This will imply that the demigods will be neglected who have been glorified by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter verses 11-12. For they bring auspiciousness in this material world.
In the context which you have cited, Lord Krishna tells that worshipping demigods makes sense only when done with Lord Yagya in the center. Lord Krishna cannot be neglected at the cost of any demigod, But the converse is true, and hence Lord Krishna tells, don't worry.
Neglecting the purificatory processes required for getting over the past sinful tendency will result in more sin and thereby accrue further sinful reactions, as Lord Krishna has already condemned pretense and pretenders.
Again, Lord Krishna has already assured immunity against the past for anyone who takes to this process of pure devotional service to Lord Krishna.
But one can't even maintain one's body without physical work. Lord Krishna has himself recommended performing the prescribed duty is better than not working. There seems to be an apparent contradiction. I am afraid that senses will force us to sin.
One need not worry about accidental, inadvertent fall downs as assured in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, shloka 30.
Only Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could assure us in this way. Such deep clarity would not have been possible without Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada has maintained this essence throughout the entirety of his Tatparyas. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well done. Compact and covers all the important points. Nicely presented.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu and all devotees, Dandavat Pranam. This is group 6 presenting. This is Kunti Mataji and Monica Mataji will be presenting a conversation between two devotees. So our topic is teaching and studying of Gita from verses 18.67 to 71. Monica Mataji, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just trying to see where did my slides go? What did I do? Just a second, the screen share.
I think Mataji, when we are on screen sharing, I think it's hard to just keep it in like a regular mode.
Why can't I share my slides now? Did I just?
I think don't put
It's
slide
already
show.
being shared.
Yeah, don't press slide show, right, Prabhu?
What is being shared? I can just, I
Can
don't see the slides.
we can see them, Mataji.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we can see slide 1.
Oh, but I can't see it. So how do I move with this? Just a second. Let me go to view and see. Okay, let me try again. Just a second. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. You can start, Kunti Mataji.
So this is a conversation between two devotees from ISKCON. Hare Krishna, Monica Mataji. I heard you were involved in book distribution, and I'm particularly interested in Bhagavad Gita distribution right now since I just finished studying it in my Bhakti Sastri class.
Hare Krishna, Kunti Mataji. Yes, of course. Book distribution is. I'm so sorry. Okay. Book distribution is a sincere endeavor to share spiritual wisdom. Whether it's Bhagavad Gita in someone's hand or an ebook shared online, each distribution opens a door to transformation through Srila Prabhupada's teachings. It serves as a roadmap for living a meaningful and enlightened life. The Bhagavad Gita embodies the essence of Krishna's teaching, serving as a guiding light for those lost in the darkness of the material world. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, "He who teaches the supreme secret to the devotees, his devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he'll come back to me." As you may know, it's spoken by the Lord himself. Devotional service to Krishna is the most confidential aspect of knowledge, and it represents the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all considered transcendentalists. but the pure devotee is the highest among them. As you may know, it's spoken by the Lord himself. Devotional service to Krishna is the most confidential aspect of the knowledge, and it represents the essence of the entire Bhagavad Gita. Karma yogis, empiric philosophers, mystics, and devotees are all considered transcendentalists, but the pure devotee is the highest among them.
Monica Mataji, I've heard this prayer before preaching. O Srila Prabhupada, O Gauranga, O Nityananda, please give me the required devotion, strength, and intelligence to truly realize that I am incapable of bringing anyone to you and that it is solely for my own purification I am being used as an instrument by my Guru Maharaj to guide sincere souls to him.
Yes, Mataji. Because Gita is not an ordinary book written by a poet or a fiction writer. It's spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A person fortunate enough to hear these teachings from Krishna or his bona fide spiritual representative is destined to attain liberation and emerge from the darkness of ignorance.
So, Mataji, do we preach Gita to all the people we meet?
No, Mataji. There are individuals who should not be told about Bhagavad Gita as they are unable to understand its teachings. People who are grossly materialistic, they are engrossed in sensual life, people who have no faith in Krishna, atheist, people who lack devotion, engage in mental speculations, philosophical speculations, and fruitless discussions, and impersonalists who are envious of Krishna.
So, Mataji, then who can we preach to?
So even though they may not be devotees, there are many people who are not envious of Krishna. If they show more interest, guide them to read the Gita, study its teachings, and learn to live by its principles. Those who are free from sinful reactions, those who are righteous, very easily take to Krishna consciousness.
I know, Mataji, from my learning that Gita is most confidential knowledge. Krishna's mercy descends, allowing one to become a pure devotee. As a result of such pure devotion, one is sure to go back to Godhead. The Lord says, and I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation between Krishna and Arjun worships me by his intelligence. That is power of discernment that comes with spiritual knowledge to completely surrender, like Krishna says, Mamekam Sharanam Braja, which will dispel ignorance, and we will get understanding of Dharma. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes free from sinful reactions and attains to auspicious planets where the pious dwell.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. For this discussion, please join us for book distribution. Srila Prabhupada's vision extended beyond the confines of temples. The temple is a place not for eating and sleeping, but as a base from which we send our soldiers to fight with Maya. Fighting with Maya means to drop thousands and millions of books into the lap of conditioned souls.
Yes, Mataji, it is about connecting people with Krishna. The spirit of selflessness and compassion defines the core of spreading Krishna consciousness. My Guru Maharaj always tells me, Krishna Matirastu. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Very interesting conversation. I was absorbed in it. And you brought forward all the important points from the instructions, who to preach and who not to preach. Well done. Okay, so I believe that was the last group. Rup Raghunath Prabhu, I think next is Q&A, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we can pause. 18th chapter is a long chapter. It's a dense chapter. I kind of struggle to keep the number of lectures down. And believe me, I spoke about only a third of what my notes had, because the chapter does have a lot of information in it. So if you have any realizations, comments, questions, please feel free. I believe we have about 20 minutes. Yes, Shripada Manjari.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In text 54 and 55, it is spoken about the Brahma Bhuta stage. And it was said that the impersonalist is happy just to reach that stage. And also that the devotee want to gradually progress. But is that stage, do they achieve that stage that they do not lament or desire for anything? And they become equipoised and attain pure devotion? No, they don't attain pure devotion service, but they just become happy, that's all.
So if I understand your question correctly, it is that are the symptoms described in 54 also included in verse 55?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
I
yes.
think 54, 55.
Yes, so 54, 55, they're different rungs in the ladder. 54 is Jnana, is on the platform of Jnana, and 55 is on the platform of Bhakti. In 54, Krishna talks about one who is at the platform of Brahman realization. So the main symptom of Brahman realization is the absence of negatives. So there is no lamentation, there is no pushings of the desire, there is no sense of discrimination. 55 is Bhakti. So 54 is the absence of negative, 55 is the presence of positive, which subsumes the absence of negative. So the lamentation and all the dualities that are eliminated in 54 are also not there in 55. But in addition to that, because the person has now entered into the kingdom of God, which means that there's personal interaction. So there's also the presence of positive, which is all the experience of the rasas in the spiritual world.
Thank you, Prabhu. And one last question. Our presentation, did we actually get a gist of it that Bhakti is explained by Krishna is really to serve?
Yes, you did. You did a good job getting it. Thank you.
Thank you. To Krishna.
Okay, so maybe I can ask you questions and we kind of do a rapid fire question that if they aren't answered in 30 seconds, then we'll move on to the next question. So in the first 18 verses, Krishna summarizes the first 6 chapters and the last 6 chapters, karma and gyan. Can anybody tell me what is the essential message that comes out of the summation of these first 18 verses, or transitively the 12 chapters, the 1 to 6 and the 13 to 18? Okay, so the essential message that comes out is that karma and jnana are the same. Right, so Arjun has set the stage by asking, is there a difference between karma tyag and karma phal tyag? So one renounces the fruits of the activities at the stage of karma, and one renounces the activity at the stage of jnana. And when Krishna says they are the same, then essentially what he is saying, that properly situated karma and jnana are the same. So if you read the verses 17 and 18, they're in a more analytical way where Krishna says that if the cause and the effects of two different things are the same, they have to be the same. And so he basically equates the effect of karma and jnana as the same. He equates the constituents of karma and jnana as the same in the 18th verse. And the Acharya said, which means that they are the same. Okay, let's move on. So what is from a practical perspective, what is the key to moving from Sakam to Nishkam? Go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think the key is keeping Krishna at the center. So when we are doing Sakam, we are actually doing it for the fruit, and when we are doing Nishkam, we are actually not doing it for the fruit. But even if we get the fruit, we actually, I mean, hand over the fruit to Krishna. I mean, at the feet of Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Jyoti Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I believe that the difference between the two, or stepping from one to the other, is knowing that Sakam karma, even good karma, is binding. So even that needs to be abandoned, because often we want to get the good stuff. We don't want the bad stuff in life. So understanding that even good stuff is binding and that we'll have to take birth again to experience all that, that will allow us to go to Nishkam karma.
Okay, thank you. Good answers, but I think they cover the periphery. So, so Radhakishore Prabhu, from Sakam to Nishkam, the person has still not encountered Krishna. So offering the fruit to Krishna is a symptom of a devotee, right? And Jyoti Mataji, I think that realization that you were talking about is more of an impetus, that driven by this impetus. But the essential activity or the essential engagement that translates Sakam to Nishkam is the performance of prescribed duties as per the scriptures. So when you perform the prescribed duties, built into them are regulations. So even though you may start performing them because you have a desire to enjoy, but you're also submitting yourself to the regulations of the scriptures. So a grihastha might earn money because it is the duty of the grihastha to earn money, but then the scriptures also, they direct the person to give in charity. So he may develop attachment, Sakam, by earning money, but eventually he will develop detachment by giving in charity. So by the gradual performance of prescribed duties according to the scriptures, Sakam gets converted to Nishkam. Okay, moving on. So what is the change in one's, or what causes one to move from Nishkam to Brahman platform? Chaitanya Ras Prabhu?
So Nishkam is still material contamination is still there, versus Brahman realization is some form of spirituality has arisen, and the material contamination is not eradicated but kind of reduced.
So you're describing the two stages, and you're describing them correctly. I was talking about what causes the transition from one stage to another. Jyoti Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, is it doing a karma, submitting oneself to be the instrument of God, and at that point giving everything back to God and not taking any attributes towards yourself?
Okay, not really. I think it's a fairly generic answer that can cover a wide variety of questions. I think in Bhakti Shastri, important is to answer specifically based on the scriptures. Sanjay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So by performing Nishkam Karma, I think the heart purification happens, Prabhu. So we will be eligible for the next Jnana Yoga.
Okay, so you're closer to it. So what happens is that by the performance of Nishkam Karma, the purification happens, which results in Atma Gyan. So the point that was made by Chaitanya Prabhu that yes, there is advancement in realization. The advancement in realization is that one now begins to get spiritual realizations. Now, Krishna is still not in the picture, right? So, Jyoti Mataji, when you were saying offering to God, etc., very, very generic terms that, like I said, could define a lot of things, but specifically, when a person is moving from Nishkam to Brahman, he still does not have attachment for Krishna, but he has attachment for non-material or transcendental or spiritual thing. And the spiritual thing in this case is Brahman. So if you look at a practitioner, that the person began with a mood to enjoy, but according to the scriptures. Then because of following the scriptures, he lost the mood to enjoy, but he's still following the scriptures. So as he performs Nishkam Karma, the reciprocation is that he begins to get an understanding of his spiritual position. So he understands he's not the body, he's soul. He is Brahman, right? So he does not have a clear understanding about soul, super soul, the Supreme Lord, but he's beginning to understand that there is more to life than matter is, right? And when he perfects that understanding, he reaches the state of Brahman realization. Okay, moving on. So later on, we see that how Krishna, he goes out and out to glorify Bhakti. Why doesn't he present Bhakti as the only path? Why does he want to confuse us by... So even though we have read the Bhagavad Gita for the last 6 months, we understand that there is hierarchy. There are many people who don't even know that. They basically look upon it as a big mesh. Everything is okay. You can do your own karma. All roads lead to God. Why doesn't he just speak about when Arjun says to Krishna that when I am confused, now I surrender to you, then Krishna says, Sravdham Pratyaje Mamekam Sharanam. Because he's already saying, I'm surrendering to you. Right? And Krishna can then say at that point, and this is after 2nd chapter, 8th verse, he says, just surrender to me, and then okay, Bhagavad Gita done. We could have finished the Bhagavad Gita in 2 weeks at the most. So why does he give all these so-called apparently confusing things? Chaitanya Prabhu, I don't know if your hand is raised from the previous question or...
Yeah, for this question.
Okay, please go ahead.
I can just adapt. So the reason is the goal is different for each individual, and that's one. And the other thing is there are different paths, and each of the individual would like to go in a different path rather than someone directly going into bhakti versus someone going into the various stages and then reaching out to bhakti. That's one. And the second thing is, what's the goal of following a particular process?
Okay, good. So I'm going to take one aspect of your answer and put it back as a question to perhaps somebody else in the group who hasn't answered yet. So the point that was made is that there are different goals that are presented because different people would like to have that goal. Why is that? Why would different people like to have different goals when bhakti is obviously the highest goal? Thank you for Jyoti Mataji. I'm trying to get others people to contribute. So I'm going to wait for somebody else to raise their hand. Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Harivansh Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. In as much as I could understand to the original question, Krishna is giving different paths because everyone cannot take to bhakti, although it is the highest. Everyone cannot take to bhakti, and Krishna wants to appeal to a very wide section. For example, even if I cannot take to bhakti, but if I can appreciate Krishna's perspective on karma and jnana, from that also I will get purification, and gradually after some lifetime maybe I can come to bhakti. So that is my understanding. Kindly correct me if I'm wrong.
Very good, Prabhu. Yes. So because of different propensities, right? So even though, so there will be some people who will not even acknowledge the position of bhakti, and there are some people who will acknowledge the position of bhakti but still not have attraction to it. So we have the Mayavadis who will not even acknowledge the position of bhakti; they reject it. Right? The Krishna doesn't speak to them. He doesn't even, he just speaks to criticize them. But then there are the Brahmavadis. The Brahmavadis, they recognize the fact that the Brahman is dependent on Krishna. They understand very well what the position of Krishna is and the greatness of Krishna, but they're attracted to Brahman. Right? So they're properly situated, that unlike the Mayavadis who think that Krishna is inferior to the Brahman, the Brahmavadis are properly situated, but their propensity, their nature, their makeup is that they get attracted, they're only attracted to Brahman. And as Harivansh Prabhu had said, Krishna is casting a wide net. He's not saying that only devotees and everybody out of the door. Right? So he's trying to make sure that everybody has something to engage in and make progress. Okay. One last question. So the Paribhasha verse, Sarvadharman Pratyajay. So if I were to say that if Krishna is saying Sarvadharma Parityajay, then does that also not include giving up the teachings of Bhagavad Gita because they themselves are a part of Dharma? Yeah, Gita is called Gita Upanishad, it's part of Mahabharata, spoken by Krishna. So it has all the qualities of being Dharma. So Krishna is saying Sarvadharma Pratyajay, right? So he's saying that you abandon all varieties of religion, which means you abandon Bhagavad Gita. Also, in conjunction with the fact that, Krishna had also told Arjuna that I've told you, now you do whatever you want, which is another way of saying that you don't have to follow anything I say. So based on these two things, what I'd like to present is that the highest conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is that you do whatever you want to do. Okay, thank you, Chaitanya Prabhu. Let me see if there's somebody else. Naval Krishna, Sharida Mataji. Very good, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, I just want to understand the question. The question is that Krishna is saying, just surrender unto me and leave all the religious activity. That means that do not follow the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna or the absolute truth being absolute, his teachings are non-different from Krishna. They are both same. So when we surrender to Krishna, that also means that we surrender to his teachings and his instructions as given in Bhagavad Gita. So and that's why a true follower of Krishna will consider him Krishna and his teachings and his names and his devotees, everything related to Krishna on the same platform, Prabhuji. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Mataji. Very good answer. It's actually a two-part answer, and you gave the second part. Let me give him the first part also. So the first part of the answer is there's something called Ardhamurgniyai, which is called like half chicken logic, right? Which basically goes by that a person had a hen, and he liked the fact that the hen gave eggs, but didn't like the fact that he had to feed the hen, so he cut the hen into half, expecting the hen to continue to give eggs, but not feeding it, right? That's the Ardhamurgniyai. So Ardhamurgniyai in the context of reading the scriptures is quoting things out of context. Right? So this is something very important. It is very relevant when we ourselves are absorbing the teachings. Also becomes very relevant when we are preaching and having discussions. Right? When people say that Krishna says that Sarvadharam Pratyaje, then you say, what about Mak Mekam Sharanam Braj? Right? So you can't take a verse half out and quote it. Or when Krishna tells Arjun that you do whatever you want to do, and then why did Krishna speak the Bhagavad Gita? Right? Because he wanted Arjun to act in a certain way, but he does not interfere with our free will. So, and this appears very, very predominantly in all the scriptures amongst various categories of people, right? Whether it is between the Mayavadis and the devotees, between the impersonalists, Gyanis, it's basically taking things in different contexts. Sometimes it is, so this is a gross case that I was stating for effect, when a person completely misinterprets context. Sometimes there are subtle differences in the context, so subtle that the person hearing may not be able to understand that itself, which is why the recommendation is to stay true to the teachings of your own acharya. So these subtleties even come amongst even Vaishnav sampradayas, or in some cases even amongst different schools of thoughts within the same sampradaya. So when Srila Prabhupada would make this strong statement that you just read my books, wasn't saying that, out of pride, saying that my books are the best, and I mean, they are the best, but that it was not from that platform. It was on a platform of wanting to protect us. I remember I had the same instruction from my Guru Maharaj, because I had this propensity to try and read a lot of books. And then I would ask questions. And at one point, Maharaj would then, earlier on, he would then say in a more gentle way. And then at some one point, he got exasperated, and he said that, I do not want you to read any books other than Srila Prabhupada books. Do you understand that? I said, yes, I understand that. So the sense of the safety that you get when you're in a monogamous relationship, we're kind of striving for that. So with this, we will end our study of the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll take next week as a break. And after that, we will begin our study of the Nectar of Devotion, which is probably one of the most analytical, scientific, and so it's a little bit, it talks about a topic that is very emotive, the rasas, bhakti, but then it analyzes it almost in a mathematical format. So that way, it's something that we have to very closely follow Srila Prabhupada's footsteps to make that connection and understand it. I'll be following the same format. I'll be recording my lectures ahead of time, because there's a lot of material in NOD. There are 19 chapters to be covered, and if you include the preface and introduction, there's 20 chapters. So we plan to do it in 8 weeks. So at least for the classes, we'll cover more than one chapter, but in my lectures, I'll try to do the requisite justice for them. And frankly speaking, some of the chapters are actually just lists. They're just list of things, so we can go over them quickly. Okay, so I'll stop here. Any questions about what's going to happen next, or any questions about anything else?
Prabhuji, any homework for the first class of NOD, or is it going to be a presentation? If you can.
No homework for the first class of NOD, other than just reading the preface and the preface, introduction, and chapter 1. That's about it. Yes, Padmashi.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, sorry. So is it going to be just one exam, or are we going to break it like half and half chapters?
It's just one exam. It's a 2-month module, one exam.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sure. So we have 2 more modules left. One is for NOD, and then we have one more module that combines Isupnishad and Nectar of Instruction. So if things go as planned, another 4 months, but may extend depending on how many breaks we take, either because of circumstances or me.
Yeah. And just one more point, Prabhuji. So the exam season for module 3 is on. I think I posted a lot of announcements on the group. But if any devotees have any questions, they can reach out to me offline and I can help them.
Okay, very good. We'll end here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Kori Vaishnavind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Bol. Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.